Good morning.
I don't know what happened there that
Living
it came on.
flow.
I
Living
think it's something
flow
with Dave,
has
whatever that
God
guy's. What's that guy's name?
in our soul. That's when we're living in the overflow. And it comes by way of chapter 8, the power of flow. But before we get into our spiritual meal, yes, I do have a prayer. It says that this man, very rich man, made lots of money, loved his money. And he loved it so much, he put his wife on a minimum allowance. And he loved his money so much, he made his wife promise that when he passed on, that she would bury all of his money in the casket with him. Made her promise. And she said, yes, I promise. I give you my word. Soon after he passed, and they had the service, and the wife was sitting there with a
Why
black
you
box.
gotta turn it that?
And she put the black box at the end of the service in the casket. And her friend said, I know you didn't get all his money out and put it in the casket with him. She said, yes, I did. She said, I'm a Christian woman, and I promised him, I gave him my word. She said, I don't believe it. You mean to tell me you put all that money in that black box and in the casket? She said, yes, I did. I wrote him a check, and wherever he end up at, if he can cash it, he can have it all. Living in the overflow. What is that, to live in the overflow? It's being so filled with God's Spirit that there's little to no room for fear, doubt, worry, or anxiousness. Overflow is more than our right now experience. Overflow is when we allow the power Jesus and many master teachers taught us, have utilized to move past the current to your need, your desire, and the plan that God, the Creator, our Father, intended for the greater good of all people, the world united. What is living? Living, the expression of being, my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, being accountable. Account for the table I have set for my experience. Accountable. Account for the table that I have set for my experience. Each one of us have the power of thought right now. We are thinking. What are you thinking? And whatever you're thinking, you're setting the table for your next experience. My actions, from everything happening in mind and heart, is based on situations, circumstances, experiences, ranging from A to Z. So we're looking back and thinking about what somebody said, what someone done to us, the experiences, the missteps, the mistakes that we have made. But that's the past. And what's an acronym for past? Previous accountability, stealing time. Previous actions, stealing time. So what happened back there, you're still allowing it to steal your time, your precious time, that which God has given you right now? Let the past be just that. Life living is the acting principle, which means how we think, how we feel, and it spills energy, our vibration, into our atmosphere. Our service, our business, our ministry, our family, communities, and the list goes on and on and on. So how I feel, the vibration that I'm emanating right now, the energy that I am exuding right now is taking place in all of our dealings. What energy are you giving your finances? What energy and feelings are you giving to your relationships? Family, community, your business, your ministry, your service. To live in the overflow is to vibrate God's love, God's peace, God's joy, God's power. Living in the overflow has nothing to do with what's happening with you now. It has everything to do with what you're thinking about what's happening. Living in the overflow is thinking in the overflow. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for what we have now. What do you have now? What are you using now that God has given you? The power of thought, the power of feeling, the power of service. When we marinate in our ills and what shoulda, woulda, could have happened, we're allowing our right now to steal, to zap the love and the peace and the joy that God has placed within us. Utilize what God has given you. Thank you, God, that I can do even greater works. And I told you before, people looking for Jesus to come back. Why would he come back and he told you this that I do, you can do it even greater? He handed the baton to us. What do you do with that? Can you see more? Can you believe God for more in your life? You are more than your humanness. I'm more than my limited thinking based on my right now current events. My willingness to move is an open door to enter into a new experience. And you enter into a new experience by having what? A new thought, a new feeling, a new understanding of my true nature. I and my Father are one. We were made in the image and likeness of God. That's living in the overflow. Overflow, God is more than enough, meeting all of my needs and my obligations, healing me from all diseases. Overflow. God, limitless, inexhaustible resources and supply. Overflow. When we worry, doubt, and fear, we choke the flow of God's antidote, God's answer, God's solution, God's healing, God's enlightenment. We're choking it because we're filled with fear, doubt, and worry. We're angry at someone. What are you angry for? Because they didn't see it your way? God created us individually. You don't have to see it your way. You see it and see it clearly. Why you need an audience to co-sign on what you're thinking? We always want somebody to agree with us. But we're standing in God. And when we have a good thought, a service thought, a loving thought, a kind thought, energy and vibration, once again, that we're relinquishing into the atmosphere, and that's living in the overflow. It ain't about how much money you have. It ain't about what car you drive. It ain't about your address. Because eventually, all of us going to have the same address. We are, as children of God, to extend beyond what appears and tap into the invisible. And with our thoughts, we pull out and make it visible. When Jesus said in John 14, truly, truly, I tell you, the works that I do, you can do, and even greater works, we then can see the overflow. Jesus was saying, don't be. We can if we choose to, but don't be afraid, for I am with you always. Not only when we are doing great, but God accompanies us at our lowest point. We're thinking God got us, and God does. But God is with us to assist in the victory, in the overcoming, and in any challenge. Ernest Holmes reminds us, what makes the world go round is the power of thought. We decide what's good, what's bad. We label things as this or that. Our power of thought, we are calling forth what's to be. Whatever you're thinking, you're calling forth what's to be next in your experience. Are we affirming I am whole, perfect, and complete? All my needs are met. All my relationships are unified and in divine right order. Are we affirming that? Or are we thinking about what had happened? Because of our freedom to live life the way that we see it, because God loved us so much. Why he gave us so much power, I don't know. Because when we look at the world, we all have something to do with it because of our power of thought. Any person we have an argument with, including yourself, we are infusing into the world atmosphere. We think we're not, but we're infusing by thought the most powerful tool that we will ever have. We think guns are powerful, but it takes a person thinking to get a gun and then shoot. The power of my thought. Chapter 8. Ernest Holmes says, utilizing the power of God's wisdom is to move by its presence, by its power over the need. It is done unto us as we believe. I believe that, this, that, and the other. What are you believing? You thinking our thoughts are missed and it don't count. Because people will say things and say, oh, I didn't really mean that. But you had enough power, enough gumption to think it and then let it spill out your mouth. You meant it. You meant it. My health, my relationship, my ministry, my service, my family, my community. What am I thinking about it? Because what I think about, I bring about. Ernest Holmes says, there is a formula that assists, allows us to follow what's necessary to accomplish the goals of life. To affirm I have peace, I have health, I have joy, I am God's mind, not because there are no storms or challenges in my life, but because God is my peace. It is my health, my joy, even in the midst of those challenges and those storms, because they're coming. They're coming to show you where you are in your spiritual walk. Because when an issue or a challenge comes, it ain't that. It's about what we think about it and what we're going to do about it. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to think about it? You got some aches and pains, a diagnosis. You have the power of thought to change the trajectory. People get healed because they heal their minds. I am able to move beyond confusion, beyond hatred, beyond unforgiveness, beyond uncertainty, beyond whatever is happening in my life. I'm living in the overflow. And when I thought about living in the overflow, I was led to Matthew 5, 3 through 12. Matthew represents our willingness. All the names in the Bible represent some power within the man and the woman. Matthew, our willingness. And that faculty is located in the forehead. I was led to the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes are a series of blessings from Matthew, willingness. These blessings given to the disciples to offer a future reward to those of us that believe in the invisible, that believe that the power of God is real. I know that it's real. Dr. Ronnie reminded us, are we going to fear God or love God? And you can't do both at the same time. Either you is or you ain't, my baby, God says. He said this to the disciples so that they can have faith and trust in a power that really can't be explained. And that's the thing with us humans. We want everything made plain. We want to understand it. But this power of God is so powerful that there are no words to explain or express. You just got to know. You got to understand and you got to be aware. That's why I give you readings every month. Get to know what you say you believe in. That's what religion is all about. It's taking this specific teaching, whatever it is, to find out your relationship with God. And then you got to walk in it until you can't. And that's when you change addresses. Hello? The Beatitudes. He gave this to the disciples during the Sermon on the Mount. Each of these blessings are keys to joy, to happiness, to living in the overflow. And Beatitudes in Latin is beatus, and it represents to be happy, blessed, to enjoy, to be fortunate. Each of these blessings are given to offer a reward to those who possess the recognition of God, the personal connection to God, the realization that the power of God can and will do for us what needs to be done. What the master teacher did, we can do, and much more. The Beatitude sums up Jesus' teaching about what it means to live in the kingdom as a child of God. That's living in the overflow. All things, all of our living experience is rooted in our faith. So what do we have faith in? Do we have faith in this worldly stuff, all the news that we're hearing? Because the moment that our consciousness digs into that, even more will come. We keep saying, I'm tired of hearing all of this killing and shooting and all of this stuff going on. But what are we doing? We're giving our energy and vibration and power over to it. When you hear something and you don't like it, that's the moment you go into your prayer, being a prayer warrior. When you hear of ill and discord, we're supposed to start talking about and praying about peace. When you hear your diagnosis or somebody's diagnosis, you're supposed to be talking about health. What you talking about the big C word for? What you talking about the disease for? It already knocked at the door. And you just answered and let it in. But certain religions, when they come knocking at the door, you don't answer. A writer says, "Let me light my lamp," says the star, "and never debate if it will help remove the darkness." I didn't hear "oh," so let me read that again. "Let me light my lamp," says the star, "and never debate if it will help remove the darkness." You are the light. You are a star. And when darkness shows up, you're supposed to shine your light. And as Reverend Helen said about the weather out there, you don't need no sun, you the sunshine. You gonna complain about what's out there instead of thinking about what's in here and who you are? Let not our reading, our hearing be just words. Let us bring our words to life with intent. So we don't just talk about being whole, perfect, and complete just to hear ourselves say it. We got to have intention to truly be healed. And first, the healing starts with your mind. And then it drops down into the body. Why? Because you're feeling what healing feels like. And then your soul will bear witness. When the voice of the silent touches our word, we shall know the Father, the Creator. Then we shall know ourselves. When the voice of the silent, that means feeling it. When we allow the power of God to touch our word, then we will know the Creator, and then we will know ourselves. Mind over matter. We don't allow the body or the outside circumstances to dictate our experiences. We're supposed to do that. The power of thought is the power to change, the power to transform, the power to renew. The characters in Matthew 5 are intentionally not given specific names, for they represent different phases of consciousness and not to be looked at as personality. See, we're so busy looking at people's personality and judging and criticizing by personality when we're supposed to see God through and through. When Reverend Gerald talked about seeing the good in that man that got on his last nerves, he tapped and touched the hem, and then he was able to see God in that man. Don't let people draw you into a web. Don't get tricked again. Don't argue with nobody. What for? Speak your word of peace, love, and unity. And the more of us that will speak our word of peace, love, and unity, the more we will see it. The more we will get to experience it. But as long as we're talking about what the news tells us 24 hours a day, we will continue to see more. What we think about, we bring about. A writer says characters in the Bible are like faucets in a diamond, each yielding a particular light. Even Jesus did not want to be personalized as a man, but accepted as the voice of truth, illumination, speaking to each one of us. How often during our 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, are we enjoined to think about spiritual things? If we desire to be established and experience health, joy, and peace, peace of mind, success, and right relationships, how often do we speak on it? I have right relationships, loving relationships, respectful relationships. How often do you say that? Or how often do you talk to that person and say what they did or did not do? What is most of your conversation about? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, have you ever looked at it this way? Have you ever thought that maybe Matthew, through the eyes of Jesus, was saying, blessed are the poor in human spirit? Our humanness makes us limited. But in the spirit of God, we are living in the overflow. Blessed are the poor in human spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And a writer says that those who have no opinion of the world, they stand alone, unbound, unshackled, ready and willing to hear the word of truth. So the more open we are in consciousness, in heart, the more space we have for God to pour its love and its power in. But when you filled with all of the stuff that has happened, what you fear may not happen, that you need to happen, you have making no space for God's love, power, and joy to get in. We got to make room. Every time we walk into a spiritual space and hear some words of empowerment, we're supposed to empty out the old and let some new stuff in. We're not supposed to walk out of here like we walked in. There should be a new pep in your step. You should be walking like you know something. Like something righteous was just poured into your consciousness. Like some more understanding and awareness of love was poured into your heart center. You're supposed to walk out of here like your soul just bear witness to the goodness of God. Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are those of us who weep, for eventually we shall laugh. See, we all got tear ducts, so it's okay if some water come out. But then eventually let it out and then laugh. Why? Because you know something. Living in the overflow. Blessed are we who seek truth. To mourn is to long for light, truth, unconditional love. God's presence is all that we should know. We are not to be dragged through life. We are to look up and discover and uncover our image and likeness. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. The Greek word for meek is tamed. Blessed are those whose wills, remember Matthew consciousness, whose wills are tamed, trained to desire that which is right in God. That's how we enter into the kingdom. We master this thing called life, always being open to the divine, to the will of the Creator. For those who are ready for ministerial class, this is an appetizer. January, I'm going to start ministerial class. All right, Bev? Got you. This is an appetizer. Wet your whistle. Speak your words of truth. You want to live in the overflow, or are you scared to live in the overflow? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for we shall be filled. Those who seek to understand spiritual truth shall be filled. And we shall approach life from a different perspective. We tend to live, think, and act upon what's happening, not on what can happen. Everything that's happening, we're feeding into that, when you should be thinking into what's going to happen the next moment. Get what you get from your right now moment, but step into the next moment with consciousness. Step into it. Lean into it. Be all about what God is for you right now. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. For those of us who are compassionate toward our fellow man and woman and child, just because of who God is in you, we shall be shown mercy. Approaching the Spirit in spirit. Unconditional love sees nothing but God. That's the thing. Unconditional love sees nothing else but God. If it's not your flavor of Kool-Aid, then step away. Turn the other cheek and go the other way. Why talk about cherry just because you like strawberry? It's all good because it's all God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for we shall be called the children of God. May we rid ourselves of negativity, regret, unforgiveness, unworthiness. My peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither be afraid. Peace and love is not diminished because it's given away. The more you give, the more you allow and you have to give. Everything we give is to be multiplied. When we give our offering, we know that as we're sowing that seed in the universal soil for a ministry, that is going to come back to me a millionfold, a billionfold, a trillionfold. And right now, billions ain't nothing now. They're going to have to think of a new word. Everything we give is to be multiplied, to be fruitful. That's what God told us. Not in discord or anger. Blessed are the pure at heart, for they will see God. When we let go of the stuff in our lives, human stuff, and allow the Spirit of God to lead, guide, and direct our movement, shall we experience God in action, living in the overflow. Jesus saw God in his beingness, therefore able to allow God to do those miracles through him. And miracles is commonplace with God, but we call it miracles because we have no words to describe what just happened. I went to the doctor yesterday and he said this. And then next week I go back and the doctor is scratching his head. That's the power of God. I went to the bank to get a loan, and then the next week I didn't need a loan. That's the power of God. Living in the overflow. And the problem is we so nosy that we get in God's business. We try to figure out how, when, where it's going to happen. Stay out of grown folk business. You God's child. Let the Father have his way and do what it does. Blessed are they that are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is in the kingdom of heaven. That is for those who stand on the principle of right thinking. And it's not to say that sometimes our thinking will be stinking. It's not to say that, but it is to say that you quickly correct yourself. Or the world you're living in, your experiences will correct you on its own. You get to choose. Amen? That is for those who stand in principle of right thinking, not this or that from the world's news, but the prompters from God, the Creator, the Father, love, divine, right action. That desires us to live in the overflow of the good life, not suffer, but thrive, not be diseased, but be healthy, not lonely, but united with loving relationships in our mind, in our body, in the soul of our being. That's how God gets the glory. That is how the life of the master teacher through each of us lives on. That's how Jesus comes back. He comes back through our thinking, through picking up the word. And then Ernest Holmes and many other New Thought teachers came and made it plain and told you, you got the power. Quit waiting on somebody to do something for you. God blessed the child that's got his own, and God gave it to us all. Your circumstances don't determine who you are, you do. In the Spirit, we shall always be rich. May we be at peace in our waiting. May we allow God to do what God does, and that is bless you. It's in God's best interest to bless us. Because when you have your children and you dress them up and you teach them and you send them out, you want them to represent you. That's why God does us. Put all of this knowledge and love in us and tells us to go out and represent them. And represent them well. Because God deserves all of that. God deserves our best selves. Always. And when that test, through a person, through a diagnosis, through a change in life, when that test comes and knocks on your door, you better greet it with a smile and say, hello, I'm God's child. What you got? That's it. Is it challenging to train yourselves to be positive 95% of the time? Yeah, it's a challenge, but anything worth having is worth fighting for. Your life, your joy, your happiness, living in the overflow, I think that deserves your attention. And don't just think I'm talking to y'all, I'm talking to me. Me first, y'all just eavesdropping, y'all just showed up to the party. Wisdom, Fillmore, Jesus, the teachers of New Thought says of our power, it shows us what the law of God is. Not that we have fallen short, but we have risen to the understanding of God's presence in us. That we have risen to the awareness that I can, you can, we can. That we have risen to the knowledge that the power works to one who works it. It's sitting there waiting on the buffet table of life. Choose today whom you shall serve. Choose off of that buffet table what you're going to put on your plate. How else would my image and likeness be known if I wasn't living in the overflow? The image and likeness of God is each and every one of us showing up as a light and a demonstration of God that's living in the overflow by the power of my thought. Peace and blessings.